Welcome back, friends, to the podcast where we get weird about media that's changed us. Strap in this week because we're going to cover Sonic the Hedgehog with Mike Ihrke. So, join us, won't you? That being said, I suspect that this one cannot possibly be as chaotic as the interview I did earlier today, which was 2.5 hours of talking to Jack about Sucker Punch, the Zack Snyder movie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a trip when that one releases. So.
That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, so it's we can't possibly we have the freedom of not being able to possibly be more than that.
We can't possibly, but you do. I don't think you understand the amount of Sonic lore there is in this brain.
That is amazing. I know so little about Sonic. It's one of those things that I can see the waves crashing on a giant ocean as I watch other people talk about Sonic, and it's one of those things that I'm like, you mean the little blue guy from the Sega Genesis?
It's crazy.
Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and sort of introduce you to our audience here. The traditional first question of this show is, cool. So, when someone asks the question, "Who is Mike Ihrke?" what do you hope the answer is?
A kind, caring, lovable guy.
Yeah, that's something that anyone could aspire to, provided they want to be a guy, of course. But
yeah, exactly. You know,
that's great. So whereabouts did you grow up?
Where I live right now, I live in Minnesota.
Okay,
I grew up in East Side St. Paul for most of my life.
Yeah, Midwest boy. What sort of kid were you?
Definitely the nerd kid.
The nerd.
But I wasn't like, I wouldn't say I was like the unpopular nerd. I was too charismatic for my own good to be like, oh, you're just a wimp little nerd. No. I got into fights. I was also a bully when I was young, very young, bully kids. Got older, realized that's dumb. I only bully bullies now.
Yeah. So that's an interesting dichotomy. You don't typically hear the popular kid who has also the nerd interests. Did you feel, was that something that you were sort of integrating into your sort of public persona, or is that something you were hiding on the side?
I never hid that I was a nerd. I always accepted what I loved to be what I love. And even when I got into like middle school or high school, I never hid that. I was unabashedly in love with what I love. I never went through that phase where like, I don't like this. I mean, I kind of did for like Spider-Man 3, the Sam Raimi movie. Sure. I kind of went through that. I was like, oh, everyone thinks it's bad. I guess it's bad. Yeah.
The relationship that you have with the media that is reviled at the time or is dismissed, where you love it but everybody else doesn't, or everybody else loves something and you can't see the appeal, is always
and then I just went with it took me like a year or two, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, it's mine. I love it. They can hate it, it's their opinion. I'm of the belief if it's your opinion, whatever, it's not mine, but I will respect what you say.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I have to like it, but I don't hate you for it.
Gotcha. So when did you first encounter Sonic the Hedgehog?
When I was 3 years old.
Okay. Yeah.
So Sonic has been a part of my life for as long as I actually can remember. Like, it's not a joke.
Yeah.
One of my first earliest memories is just watching one of my parents play Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube.
Okay.
So like and I was like, this is cool. Walking animal, riding a snowboard down the street. That's so fucking cool. It's
really interesting as a dichotomy between, I remember the time when it was Sonic versus Mario. Like that was the big divide amongst children was did you like Sonic?
And it's kind of funny how like years after, like let's say like early 2000s, it started going like, oh, Mario's obviously better. Yeah. We've now reached that again, but for the movies this time.
Yeah.
Where now it's like, but the Mario movie is better. No. Sonic movies are way better. And it's kind of great to see that again. Yeah. But more in a nicer way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, man, the vitriol from the 90s was amazing. To thinking back on it, to how
the 90s was a great time.
Well, I mean, like how strongly the kids felt about this.
Right. Yeah.
And looking at the two options, it's really interesting because Nintendo's version of Mario has never been cool. Like he's always been a bit dopey, and which is not a slight against them. It's sort of a very earnest, innocent property.
It's like it's like a Disney cartoon.
Yes. It's very much got the Disney.
It's just a fun time. Well, as I like, there's a question. One of the questions you asked me, what would you describe Sonic to other people? Sonic's a shonen protagonist.
Okay.
Like it's literally in his DNA. He is modeled off of Goku from Dragon Ball.
Interesting.
So Sonic as a franchise is literally just a shonen franchise for video game people.
That's a very interesting outlook on that. I had never thought of it in that way, but I totally see where you're getting at.
I remember it wasn't with me all the time. It wasn't with me with that opinion. But I remember watching like someone say like, oh yeah, Sonic is just a shonen character. And I looked at that, I went like, oh my God, he is.
Yeah.
That's what he is to me. Yeah. Like and that's why like during like the 2010s era where we just had like, oh, Sonic's just like American cartoon now. And it's like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want my guy to fight Eldritch horrors. That's what I want. I want my guy to fight like galactic level threats. I don't want him to be like Baldy McNose here all the time.
Mm-hmm. I get you. So if maybe this is an impossible question. If you were going to point somebody at one piece of Sonic media, because one thing I know about it is that there's so much and it's so disparate and not all of it's connected and it's so many different versions. But if you were going to say this is the version that is that is my Sonic, right? This is the one that I would point you to. What is that for you?
That's a hard one.
Yeah, maybe.
I have 3 options for that.
Okay.
And one of them is an actual complicated mess to point at, but it's the one.
Awesome. That's the
first
best,
one,
man.
I would go to for this is my Sonic is Sonic Adventure 2.
Okay.
Because that is the game that introduced me to Sonic. So that will always have a special place in my heart to be.
So naturally.
The Sonic, like even the Sonic story, I will point to being like, this is what I want from a Sonic story. The second one, I will go with Sonic and the Black Knight. It's like a Wii game. It's where Sonic just gets thrown into Arthurian legend, and he's actually King Arthur, but the story about it is just him helping because he can.
Okay.
And the main villain wants everything to live forever, and Sonic is like, no. Everything shouldn't live forever.
Okay.
Like, and it's just a unique like character thing for like a hero to have.
Yeah, that's a very strange stance. I like it.
Like he will save someone's life, obviously, but he doesn't want them to live forever.
Right.
He doesn't want them to die now, but he doesn't want them to never die.
Right.
It's such a unique,
a little bit of that live fast mentality.
And like he also kind of like, there's a fight between one of the knights. And the knight loses, and the knight's like, I have disdained my honor, and he's about to like seppuku himself. And Sonic's like, bro, what the fuck? Stop that, dude. If this is what chivalry's like, I don't want no part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's such a unique, and like another example from that story is he's on a time limit to meet the Lady of the Lake. And this little girl is crying because, oh, my parents are attacked by a dragon. Mm-hmm. And he has a talking sword, and the talking sword's like, we have to go to the lake now. And Sonic's like, no, I have to help her family.
Yeah.
It has all the hallmarks of what I want from like a good character. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it emphasizes him so much. And then I would, the third option is the Archie comics, the first run of Sonic comics. The problem with that is like, it has like 14 different eras because it has like 300 different writers writing on it. Yeah. But I would go with the Ian Flynn era. Okay. Which is the most modern Sonic writer for the games. Mm-hmm. He wrote an amazing run for Archie, and is basically what makes Sonic a shonen story
Okay.
in American comics, and it's just
that sort of power escalation. I'm going to grow as a person to fight the new biggest threat, and rise.
Yeah,
it
also has one of my favorite versions of Eggman, where he's just an actual robot.
Okay.
And will kill anything.
Okay.
Like, he is actually that sadistic monster.
Gotcha. So I know that there's so many different versions of Sonic the Hedgehog, and the continuity is if there is such a thing as continuity in the Sonic universe. I know it's complicated at best.
It's complicated.
Yeah. But like, what do you feel like you bring him back as a shonen protagonist? What is it that sort of forms that core for him? Is it a sense of ambition or a sense of like?
It's the like, if you can compare him to like other, like, let's compare him to like the easiest one to compare him to, Goku.
Yeah,
they're both in the games, not in every media, but focusing on like what is the actual main canon, like the games. They're both static characters, and then like in the sense that like they know what they are.
Okay.
And they are that. They don't change.
Okay.
And they don't want to change.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also how they interact with like the characters around them, how they change them for the better, like,
Gotcha.
And the scope of it all, because like Sonic will start off the adventure in like a little town fighting Eggman's robots, and by the end of the story, he's fighting an apocalyptic threat.
Mm-hmm.
Like the progression in like most shonen like manga or anime, where like they start off just fighting like this D-list villain that's tough for them at first, and then they end it fighting like the most apocalyptic threat they've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's how and then like it's also like just a sense of like how most shonen stories are like about hope.
Yeah,
Sonic is the embodiment of like, I believe in myself.
Gotcha.
I believe I can do this, and I won't stop until I do this.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it feels like, based on what you're saying, that you can almost transpose this character into any sort of setting. Like, it doesn't. He's not. He's not intricately aligned with a world setting. Like, he's just.
100%.
You can drop him in.
A lot of Sonic fans, like in the most recent Sonic game, Sonic Frontiers, they hate how the art style is so realistic. But I'm like, Sonic fits it though. Like, he fits in like a super cartoony world. Yeah, and he can fit into a super realistic world. Sonic is like a character that can fit into anything, as long as you keep him as this kind of cocky, but absolutely caring person who will go to any lengths to help you because he can. That's all I want from a Sonic.
Mm-hmm. So I can't remember the name of the video essayist who proposed this thesis, so I'm unfortunately not able to give them credit. But it was a whole discussion about the difference between Sonic and Super Mario. And the thing is that Sonic has forever been trapped. He was created in the 90s to be cooler than Mario. That was the whole point. Is that it was specifically like, we're going to market this to kids and we're going to aim at cool, 90s cool. And
literally the motto Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah. And it's a marketing decision at its origin. But what it also means is that because cool is a moving target, what is cool one day is not cool when the next batch of kids grows up. That's 10 years old now. Screw that. We don't want to be anything like that. But that means that Sonic has to be constantly reinvented and has to be changing all of the time in order to maintain his central thesis is that he's a cool guy in a lot of ways, at least with the returns of making him marketable, which means that with few exceptions, like sort of that core character of that sort of nice guy who's a little bit cocky but definitely wants to help and is a hero, and it goes very fast. Although I guess I could be wrong. Maybe he doesn't always go very fast. But like, there are these sort of core features, but then everything beyond that seems to be up for grabs and able to be reinvented, which I think I've heard it talked about in a way of it being a criticism of the IP, but I actually kind of think of it as a strength, where
I definitely see it as a strength. Because you can, like, for examples, like the movies, those characters in the movies, Sonic's in like actually like a completely different character to his video game counterpart.
Sure.
But the core traits of who he is still there. He's still this cocky, caring, confident person who will help you because he can.
Yeah.
But like he has but in that version he has trauma for being alone for most of his life.
Right.
And now he's slowly gained this family that he always wanted. And it's just it's a totally different character than the games and even the comics, but it is a still Sonic. You can tell he's Sonic.
I think that the concept of sort of embracing that idea of there being so many iterations of the character and that he can kind of be what you need the story to be is while keeping those core features is actually, it's really interesting in terms of like it makes him very versatile as a protagonist, and I think in a way that could be viewed as a problem because he, you know, the continuity and the fact that he's, you know, he's different here and that's just different. But like I think actually what that means is that he has as a property available for exploration and to do new and interesting and strange things, whereas every time you do something new with Mario, for example, I'm going to keep coming back to the thing because I'm a 90s kid, so it's big Mario versus Sonic. Sorry.
No, 100%.
Yeah, it feels very strange when you do new things with Mario because like Mario is so codified and so static in a way that
right.
I feel less weird about hearing I cannot remember the actor's name who voices Sonic in the movies.
Ben Schwartz.
Ben Schwartz, yes, of course. I hear Ben Schwartz's voices coming out of Mario's mouth, and it doesn't seem weird at all. Like, you know, despite the fact that in my head he always sounds like Jaleel White because I'm a '90s kid. And
don't worry.
So like, but nonetheless, when I hear Ben Schwartz, I'm like, no, that works. Like, it's just a different version of the same character. But when I hear Chris Pratt's voice coming out of Mario, I'm like,
it's a little weird.
Man,
yeah,
it doesn't seem
weird.
right.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
So you pointed to me at two video games and the Archie comics,
right.
And you said that the Archie comics are sort of a different tone to it. It sounded like,
like the Archie comics, like this is me, like who spends hours on YouTube watching other people talk about this. So it's not me who knows the knowledge; it's me gaining knowledge from others who know the knowledge. Archie comics started as technically a companion piece to the Sonic the Hedgehog Saturday morning cartoon back in the 90s, which a little light. And then it started off as like it started combining the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog with the Saturday AM cartoon, having like all the characters from Saturday AM, but the comedy of adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Gotcha.
And then that's what it started. And then it slowly became more serious, started doing its own thing. Start trying to create its own like mythos and take it seriously, but it kind of got muddled because some writers were just writing weird shit. Some writers wrote weird shit that in the future they sued the company and then they got the rights to a lot of characters that they couldn't use anymore.
That's always wired.
Yeah. So it's like it got to the point where then like Archie was like, all right, we gotta hire a new writer. So then they got Ian Flynn, who has been a fan of the comics since like the beginning, and then he went like, all right, we're gonna take everything from the past, and we're not gonna like pretend it never happened.
Right.
We're gonna add upon it and make it make sense.
Okay. Yeah. It can be a Herculean task.
That's when like a lot of Sonic fans go like Archie went good.
Okay. Cool.
Like went truly good, like consistently good.
That sounds, from what you're talking about, like one of those instances where by bringing in a fan, like a true fan of the series, they found somebody who was really willing to pour a lot of effort and love into
which
the
I
property.
find it's like how it's working nowadays, which is a very unique way of looking at the world now. That back in the day, it wasn't like fans were in charge. It was a bunch of people that were just hired to do these things. Like for like a lot of movies, like back in like let's say the 90s and early 2000s, they just hired like the most popular director and popular writer just to create this. Nowadays, it's a lot more different. A lot of the fans have grown up, are now in charge. Like I know we talked about the Illumination Mario movie. But like you can tell that fans were in that.
100%.
100% having all those details. Of course, Nintendo was involved. They were like, you can't be the 90s Mario movie. You can't do that.
I need to cover
I actually really like that movie.
Yeah, I need to cover it at some point. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's
a fun movie if you just ignore it being connected to the games.
Yeah.
You just accept as its own thing. It's a great time.
Yeah. It's
saying
it's weird,
like that's a great example of like back in the 90s, there was no fan to make the Mario movie.
Right.
And then come to the modern times, we have fans who have animated, made sure the music were in it.
Yeah.
You know, and the same thing goes to the Sonic movie. The director of the Sonic movies, Jeff Fowler, directed a animatic for Shadow the Hedgehog, the video game. He came and directed the movie. The writers put so much love and care into the movies to make sure that it's not against the fans. Yeah, and I like that now. Like nowadays, with like adaptations, the companies are not all the time, but they're now focusing on, okay, let's not try to go for the whole demographic of the world. Let's try to get the fans on board. Let's try to get these guys to be on board and make a good product instead of just dishing out some oh, this is what the modern audiences would like, so it's just
it's the difference between watching something made like between the J.J. Abrams Star Trek revival and the Dave Filoni Star Trek revival, where like you get the very obvious difference that like one of these creators loves and adores and cares about this world and is willing to put all of his he puts his entire body and soul into the creation, and you have another guy who does not do that, and it's the result is immediately obvious when you have somebody who truly loves what they're working on work on it.
Yeah, but I also like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, so I'm just gonna shut my mouth. I understand why fans don't like it. I understand it completely. But they're good movies. Like, honestly, they're good movies. Beyond's a good movie.
Which one?
The third one.
Did I say Star Trek? I meant Star Wars. I'm so sorry.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, 100%. No, that's where I agree
conversation.
With you. I will agree with you on the J.J. Abrams movies not being good.
Yeah. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have I actually do his J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. I actually do have a soft spot for those as well. That I do. Yeah, I think of them as their own thing that maybe shouldn't be connected to Star Trek as a whole.
Oh, 100%. But they're good. They're good by themselves. The movies, I thought Force Awakens was okay. I liked The Last Jedi. I'm one of those people that thought The Last Jedi was a really good Star Wars movie.
Yes.
And then The Rise of Skywalker fucked everything.
Yeah. I so regret that they had to learn the lesson of how to make a good Star Wars content again by doing it with the big property of making the movies, right? Like they should have started. It feels like they maybe would have been better off starting with they went big whole hog with a new trilogy, and then they started making these TV shows, and they learned a ton of lessons by bringing back.
I also
TV
think the
shows.
problem was they didn't have a full thought out plan at the start of making the trilogy.
Exactly, but I'm saying if you had started with smaller projects that didn't need to have a full, then what you could have done is looked at what was happening here and the people who were working on them, and then found somebody and said, okay, now I need you to make a plan. And instead, they just hired. It was
hired J.J. Abrams for one movie, then they hired Ryan, whatever his name is, Ryan Johnson.
Yeah.
And then Ryan Johnson went like, well, okay, I'm gonna do some twists.
Yeah.
Not all of them were great. Some of them were great. Some of them were great. I like the Ray as a nobody one. That was a great twist.
I did too.
The fact that like a lot of the main characters are just nobodies is a great twist.
I like
they're not. Yeah, like they're not children of these. Yeah, important characters except for like Kylo Ren, but that makes sense for Kylo Ren. He's the son of Han Solo. Of course, he has problems.
Yeah. Well, and like. There are things, the Last Jedi is one of those fraught properties where like there are things that I think are fantastic. I think I'm with a lot of people that says that I don't like that version of Luke. Up until the very last 5 minutes.
Oh
of that movie.
The last scene with Luke versus Kylo was an amazing scene.
And if that was the only way they could get there, okay, then I'm willing to kind of go along for the ride in order to get to that fucking amazing moment. But I kind of think that like how we got there kind of sucks. with regards to that one part of it. And
see, I didn't hate it, but I understand the hate, you know?
Yeah. And one thing is, I'm not even sure hate is, I rise to the thing. I'm like, I don't think I agree with that creative decision, but I am willing to go along with that to get to good moments. I can see the appeal of it.
Yeah, there's some other stuff. The Rise of Skywalker came in, and I was like, I don't agree with half of these decisions. I don't even like the other half.
Yeah, it was one of the things, like, I'm not willing to put up with some stuff in order to get to somewhere great. We didn't end up anywhere great. I don't feel like that was worth any of the
force healing shit bothered me. I'm
going
like, that
back and forth with it. Yeah, I don't know.
What do you mean you can heal yourself with the force? The fuck do you mean? This was never established in anything beforehand. What do you mean?
Yeah, and
then Kylo's redemption pissed me off. I wish he didn't get redeemed.
The work wasn't done on that one. That needed.
Yeah,
you needed,
no, 100%. Like, it started off pretty good, and then it was like, it's a little stumble, but maybe it could land it. It didn't land it. It literally fell into the the Snarlack pit, and it killed himself. So I'm like, what the fuck?
To bring it back to an earlier point we're talking about, where it's like the amount of love that was poured in and effort that was poured into movies. You look at Rise of the Skywalker, and like the big new Star Destroyer in Rise of the Skywalker is literally just like an Imperial 2 scaled up with a big gun shot over the front.
Exactly.
They literally
they had cool, like the Sith troopers were cool looking.
Yeah,
but they were nothing special.
When you see something like that, that says to me that somebody, I hate to use this word, but it feels like somebody phoned it in. Probably what it was is that they didn't have time. They probably didn't have the time and the money. But but what that communicates is that you don't care about making this good. And when the creator doesn't care, then why should I care?
Exactly. So if you're not passionate about the thing you're making, why should I be passionate about it?
Yeah, exactly. And I can feel when an audience can know when somebody loves the thing that they're working on. It comes through in those kinds of going the extra mile, putting the extra details in, really thinking about it, making it, spending all that extra effort in order to make something as amazing as you can make it. Audiences know when that happens. And so it's good to know that there are people. I mean, it's awesome that people who were my age now are running the Sonic franchise. I'm assuming at this point.
Yeah, 100%. Like, Ian Flynn was back in the 90s grading these comics, and is now is the main writer for the games now. Mm-hmm. He gets to do it himself, and it's amazing. It's great. Yeah. I hope to one day be a part of the franchise myself. Yeah. It's actually a goal of mine. Dream of mine to be in the game. I don't need to voice Sonic. I don't need to voice anything. Just let me voice let me voice like a critter. I can be like, me. I don't care. I don't care. Just put me in it. I want to be in this.
I love it. So I'll have just to give the audience a little context here. I had picked a side in the 90s. I was a Sonic kid briefly.
Oh wow!
When the NES, we had an original Nintendo Entertainment System, and then when the Genesis / Mega Drive versus the Super Nintendo decision was to be made, there was a fork in the road, and my parents were like, "Which one do you want?" And one of them had Sonic, and I went with that one because he was cool. And though I think I had 1 and 2. I don't think I went beyond that. Those were some fucking amazing games at the time. Like the visual language of those games was amazing.
See, and just the sense I'm a huge Sonic fan. Yeah. I am blasphemous where I say I don't like the classic games. I don't hate them.
Oh yeah.
Like don't get me wrong, I don't hate them. They're not for me. They're not the type of games I like.
Video games specifically are the kind of, it's just a format of media that I think it's harder and harder to go back to the old stuff. That the farther back in time you go, if your brain wasn't wired during that time period to like this stuff, it is super hard to pick it up.
And I'm also I'm 100% I want story in anything I'm consuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So classic Sonic had story. I'm not saying there wasn't, but it wasn't.
But no, it wasn't
prominent.
Yeah, it wasn't there like it would be in later instances.
Exactly.
For sure.
So that's why I'm more of the modern Sonic fan.
Oh yeah.
Instead of a classic. I always appreciate that classic existed to give me what I wanted.
Yeah.
It's just not for me.
Oh yeah. Well, and like the story is one of those things that can stand the test of time. I think we've already touched on Star Trek. I don't know why my brain does this. Well, we've already touched on Star Wars. One of the games that I would recommend people go back and check out is Knights of the Old Republic, because it's a story-centric game. It's a game that is about the the characters and the actions and this grander emotional arc. The mechanics and the graphics are things that you're going to, you can suffer through in order to get a good story. And that I will totally cop to like the original classic Sonic. You're not going to be, if you're not there for the mechanics and the like visual looks, you're not going to get anything else out of it, because that's what's there.
Exactly.
And that's the era.
Maybe Sonic 3 and Knuckles, because there's little cutscenes in the game, so you might get something out of that, but like otherwise you ain't getting nothing out of it.
Yeah. Knuckles is such an interesting character because
yes.
At least from my perspective, because I remember playing Sonic and Knuckles at my friend's house. I don't think I ever owned that one. It was the first moment that I remember. It seems like it started them on a path of, we have to keep making new, cooler people. Like, we need new, cooler animals. And, so like it started off, okay, we've got Sonic. Sonic is the coolest. And then we've got Tails. Tails is not cooler than Sonic. This is a very like defined hierarchy. Exactly. There are going to be people who really like Tails, but he's not cooler than Sonic.
He's cute. He's meant to be cute.
Yeah, he's a sidekick character. He's a friend. And we need that character. And I love, no shade on Tails, but he's not cooler. But like Knuckles, you could make an argument that Knuckles is, for some people, they're like, no, he's cooler than Sonic. And then
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And so as I have seen further iterations, because I only see, memes and other people talking about it and stuff. And it's like, okay, so now we've got Black Sonic that's got a gun, like, and we've got
okay, that's a wild misinterpretation of Shao is, but 100%.
But I'm saying, like,
yes.
from the outside out, it looks like somebody being like, okay, we got to keep.
They got Black Sonic with the gun. Then they have a white Sonic that can move things with his mind.
Yes, exactly.
They have a purple cat that shoots fire. What the hell is going on here?
And it felt like an escalation. This is looking from the outside in. It does feel like an escalation, which I so regret for the creators, because they felt that pressure to sort of keep escalating and one-upping when what they need. I feel more now that as I see additional characters being introduced by various properties, that they have decided, no, the idea is you need to diversify, not escalate. We're going to start creating characters that appeal to different groups of people within this fandom. And
right.
That's a much better way to do it.
I never really thought of it as like an escalation, honestly.
Sure.
But that's probably because like I'm so in tune with Sonic that like to me it was never an escalation. It was like, ooh, new cool character that I could learn about and get to grow in love with. Because like that was how it pretty much was. It's like I grew up with like the coolest one, Shadow. So obviously everything after that wasn't going to be cooler than that. It was going to be like, great, okay, now we have a big robot with guns. That's cool. Not as cool as Black Hedgehog with guns, but we got it. We got it now. Bat Lady that steals. That's cool. Hell yeah, we got it. And like, I love like when they introduce new characters. I understand that like it's like there was a actual like problem, like criticism with Sonic games back in the day before like Colors came out, and they're like, Sonic has too many friends. No, why is there so many friends? I just want to play Sonic. And then like for like 10 years, over 10 years, we had no other playable characters.
Gotcha.
Except Sonic. And honestly, that annoyed a lot of us fans, because we were like, we love these characters. Can we play as these characters? But Sonic. I'm like, I don't care. I love Sonic, but like I want to play as Nucleus. All right, let me play as Nucleus. Okay, come on, bro.
So, so how, as somebody from the outside world, I'm really curious what the fandom for Sonic is like. Is it, do you have thoughts about like the other people who also love this property of yours?
Yeah. Calm the fuck down. Like, I love Sonic as much as you guys love Sonic. I'm in the top 13 Sonic fans, okay? I'm number 13. I understand how much this means, but sometimes y'all get too heated. Because there's the discourse over the newest cartoon show. A lot of Sonic fans hate it. They're like, oh, this is too kiddie and shit. And meanwhile, me and my friends are just watching this and we're like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's also my personality. I don't hate things. I can hate people because they can do some heinous things in life.
Sure.
I don't mean to go like too dark into that like that. But with when it comes to like property, like fictional shit, unless it's like a character that does heinous shit, I'm not gonna hate things. So like in Sonic, there's a lot of bad bad games, but like I never hate anything. If I don't like something, I'm like, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
Or anything.
The being part of a fandom when a new property comes out that you don't like, or that's not your favorite, or that you feel like it's taking the system in a direction you don't appreciate. It's the ability to like step back and be like, well, okay, so this is doing something I don't like, but all the stuff that I like is still in the thing that already existed, right? Like I can go back and watch the movies that I like. I can play the games that I like. It's all still there. That's a real mature stance that I think a lot of fandoms really struggle with.
That's how I've always done it, honestly, at my entire life when it comes to like things like I'm also like a Transformers fan.
Yeah.
When the movies were coming out, I liked them. But like I grow up now and I don't like where the Transformers franchise is going.
Sure.
Because it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Like the writing kind of feels too childish sometimes for like the recent Transformers cartoons. Like I thought the recent movie was okay, but that's because I think it was too bloated with things. Should just cut out the Beast Transformers and just cut them off.
Oh yeah.
They weren't necessary to the story at all. 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
But I could go back and be like, oh, I still have the other things I like, and it didn't ruin the franchise for me. I absolutely hate this. Ruined my childhood. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Your childhood's still there. You just ruined yourself. That's it.
Yeah. That's a very mature way to think of it. I know I myself even struggle with the instinct of like, I saw something that I love being reimagined in a way that I don't like, and I will still find myself being like,
I mean, I still struggle with that too. It's not like I don't struggle, but I'm also at the point of like, well, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get too political. I hate politics. And everything. I can accept politics to be in my stories. Yeah, because it's understandable if you want to tell a good story or that involves telling a good story. Do it 100%. Just get in there. Yeah, but like sometimes I'm also just like, I don't, because it's like I'm a white guy. I'm a white straight male.
Sure.
So I can't relate to other people that aren't me. Like I can relate to these characters.
Yeah.
In like some other way, but what they are meant to be, I can't relate. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't think we need this shoved down my throat. That's where I'm like, stop.
The interesting thing is that there's no such thing as an apolitical story, right? Like,
exactly.
Whenever the stance is, I don't like politics in my stories, the answer is like, well, what usually what you're thinking of as apolitical is just stuff that aligns with you. And so if you're looking for stories that sort of fit within your worldview, that's fair enough. You know, like you say, I am this type of person. I want to see stories centering that kind of person. Okay, that's fair enough. But the truth of the matter is there is no such thing as like without politics, because if it's either going to show one version of the world or another, and that is itself a point of view about the way the world is.
Yeah, and it's always hilarious when someone like, oh, this story didn't have politics in it, and they just show this like story, and I'm like, bro, that is the most political story I've ever seen in my life. What do you mean?
The fans who get mad, they're like, "Oh, take the politics out of Star Trek," and I'm like, "Dude,
bro, where have you been?
Where, like, have you
watched the first movie? That movie's so political.
I mean, like, but I mean, original series Star Trek is like straight up like." It pushes an agenda the whole way through. It is very 100%. Clearly, and
it's literally
stated by its creators that this is about like pushing egalitarianism and equality, and like, you know, it's like
stopping a dictator from taking over the world. It's literally a politic story.
Yeah. And
I love seeing that for Star Wars. It's hilarious.
No, well, and I'm talking about Star Trek this time. Actually, when I said,
it's funny for that too. Like both Star Wars and Star Trek, they are heavily political stories.
Oh, incredibly, yeah.
But when people are like, "Oh, I don't want this in my Star Trek," I'm like,
no.
Look, I'm not a Star Trek fan, but have you seen Star Trek?
Yeah. Have you seen it?
It's the most political story made.
Yeah.
Honestly, Star Trek is the most political story ever made, put into like television or film.
Yeah. It's around every corner, and it seeps its way through. And the idea that it's
crazy.
You could think it's not. Yeah.
It's crazy that people think that. It's like, where have you been?
So so you think of the Sonic fandom as like, you guys need to slow down a bit, but is there part of that community that like speaks to you and that you see good things out of as well?
Like every community. I think every community is toxic in their own way. But when I like, Sonic is a famous example of a toxic fan base. I think the Sonic fan base ain't like as bad as everyone puts them out to be.
Sure, yeah.
But they aren't that great either. But like there are a bunch of very positive people in the Sonic community, and I love them for it.
Right. Yeah.
Because like they'll be just like, yeah, something happened. I don't know what happened. But like they're just like, yeah, a new Sonic thing. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And then there'll be these bunch of people like, oh, it doesn't look that good. I'm like, bro, shut the fuck up.
And I have a special place in my heart for anybody who has a genuine, unabashed love for a property and is willing to make, fan art and just express their love for it amidst an otherwise toxic fan base. Like people who are like genuinely just like, I'm happy to be here and I want to do that. And like when everybody around me,
I literally do that. I have a Wattpad and I write a Sonic fan story.
That's awesome.
And I'm here throughout the midst. I'm like, yeah, check out my Sonic story. If Sonic was a show and protagonist, have fun, bye.
Yeah. I'm legitimately surprised. I predicted when the first of the two CGI or the live action movies came out.
Yeah.
That much like I started to see when the Spider-Verse movie started to come out, I started to see a lot of Spider-Sonas, and I am shocked that we didn't get more Sonic people coming out of the woodwork to really
that's because we wasted it all in the early 2000s.
Oh, okay. We blew our wad too soon.
You missed it. Early 2000s, like up to
I've
2000.
Seen it. I've been on DeviantArt. I know. I've seen the naked
yeah,
face
we wasted
of God.
it all.
I know
then.
it's up.
We wasted it all. Then see, Spider-Man never had that. So when like Across Spider-Verse came out, that's when they were like, oh, we can just create our own Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh no! When Sonic fans are like, first time.
You've been there, done that.
Yeah, been there, done that. It's over. Like, I mean, we still have people doing it now, but it's a lot less common in our fan base now.
Sure.
In my opinion, I could be wrong. I'm not in the artistic drawing side of it. Mm-hmm. I hate having to like be like, oh, I'm not an artist, but I'm like, well, I am an artist, but I just don't draw.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm a writer. I'm a voice actor, but I'm not a drawer. But I feel like calling like artists that drawers sounds kind of not good.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the distinction of the language is a little bit lacking there, because like we're talking English about a visual artist, it's whereas art is many things beyond that. A fun game 100%. For our audience to play, which may scar you ever so slightly, is the search your name the hedgehog in Google image search and find out what you find. And hey man, the network is called the Library of Cursed Knowledge. I like things that will scar your brain a little bit.
100%.
It is a, like I said, it's a look into the the almost outsider art majesty of somebody who has unrestrained their own creativity. It's such weird crap. It's great.
I will say this for like the Sonic fandom. Mm-hmm. I think it has some of the best artists ever.
Okay.
In our times right now.
Okay.
And it's a shame that most people just throw it to the side because it's Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, I have seen some amazing, some of the most beautiful fan art in general I've ever seen, and it's from Sonic.
Yeah.
Like, even like there's official artwork that's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. And then like in fan art is so beautiful. And it's like no one will give them a shot because it's Sonic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely does have a sort of stank on it when you get into online spaces. And it's unfortunate because I know that it's earned it not because of the art itself or the story itself or the good works of the people in it.
2006 screwed us over.
Yeah, that there's been a lot of people like looking at the worst parts of the fandom and being like,
everyone who shits on Sonic just goes straight to like, Sonic 06, Sonic Boom, and I'm like, yeah, I get that there were bad games. Like, I'm not denying that. But
every series has bad games.
There were good things about those games.
Sure, yeah.
Like, Sonic 06 had some great story elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, Sonic Boom, like, even if it was a bad game, the character model animations in that game are actually stellar.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. but people will only talk about the gameplay because for some reason people think video games are only gameplay. It's like, no.
That stance is a very 2006 stance. That like gameplay trumps all is a very mid 2000s kind of thought to have.
Yeah,
the 2010s and 2020s have really shifted the public consciousness on what can be valuable about a game as well. Story, message, treating games are available to be treated as art a lot more, and to look for the value in them is something that is
100%.
much more accepted now.
I think a good game is just a game with a good gameplay and good story.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have both. It can have either or, but if it has both, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can nail that sweet spot, the best. I mean, there's not actually anything wrong with just not even trying on either. Like making a game that is just pure gameplay has its value as well. I'm thinking of things like Geometry Wars or fucking Tetris, man. Like it's just a game. Like it's just a
dude. Oh, have you saw the article about the guy who beat
like
the world
13-year-old
and that fucking bitch of a fucking newscaster when like, go touch grass, you.
Oh, fuck that. Yeah.
You bitch. You understand he did that for his dad?
Yeah.
He made that in honor of his dad who died?
And like, come on, like doing something that literally 10 years ago everybody thought was fucking impossible. Literally thought it was impossible to do.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like,
he broke a record.
Yeah. Like that's, news coverage is a whole thing that we can get into.
Oh, it has gone downhill over the years. And it's sad to see.
It's so hard to reconcile a world where you have to both make money covering the news and also like cover the news. Providing people with information is just something that isn't necessarily ever going to be profitable. And so,
I also think the problem is like back in the day, newscasters were pretty. They didn't put their full opinion on. I mean, like I wouldn't say like they didn't. I'm not saying like they didn't, but they were also like, yeah, I'm just here to tell you this, and then I'll let you know. Nowadays, it's like it's 100% opinionated.
It's opinion.
It's not like, oh, I can see the other side to it. It's like, no. This is bad, and I'm right.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, give both sides.
Yeah, unless both sides fucking suck. Like, sometimes there is a right answer about things. Like, there's things about facts.
There's a right answer.
Yeah.
I choose neither of the options you give me. Because they both are bad, so that's my option.
So, Is there anything that we haven't yet covered about Sonic that you want to make sure you get the message across to the audience? Like anything that we haven't brought up naturally, or thinking, we missed out on, I don't know. I mean, we haven't really talked about any of the TV shows or cartoons.
No, we haven't. The TV shows are weird and interesting because like you said, there are a bunch of different styles. Like the first two cartoon shows. Yeah. They aired at the same time and they were wildly different from each other. I guess that's like a great way to describe like how Sonic can just be anything, because Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was a pure comedy. Yeah. It was definitely the Looney Tunes Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. Where everything's just slapstick, stretch and pull. Anyone can basically get killed and never die. Yeah. And then like Sad AM, the other side is a very serious story. Yeah. While still having that comedy, but it's set in the apocalyptic world where there are a bunch of freedom fighters trying to stop a megalomaniacal maniac from taking over the entire world. Right. And it's like, yeah, interesting. It's fascinating to me that those were on the air at the same time, kind of airing in the same, if I remember correctly, in the same time slot, sort of indiscriminately about like what you're going to see. I think it was like it started 1 hour, and then the next hour is like the opposite show. Yeah, and it's like baffling. It's insane. It's one of those things that like, if you did it on purpose, would almost be an artful like message, like about like the way that this character exists in both places, and that like sometimes, but like nonetheless, I think it was probably just some marketing thing. They're like, well, we're gonna put Sonic on now, definitely, and we're gonna give these kids as much fucking Sonic as they can handle. Pretty much. I gotta give it to the Sonic franchise from what I've seen from the outside world looking in, that like they do not fear being weird. Like they're willing to swing for the fences and do things that seem strange from the outside world. like you, I feel like you're talking about like as a story or like a franchise perspective. Like in games, that's how it's been too. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the games don't keep the same formula.
Yeah. No, I'm
Because
thinking about that
Sega
too.
ain't afraid, in some ways detrimental to them. They ain't afraid to just like, let's just try something different.
Yeah.
Let's just give us Hedgehog a gun.
Yeah.
We don't care. And it's like, maybe you should have waited. Maybe think about that a little bit more.
I think there is a certain value to being experimental, and just trying new things,
100%.
and letting this letting the, sort of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. Sometimes they'll stick, sometimes they won't.
Yeah, 100%.
And there's like, it won't always work. In fact, most of the times when you try something new, it's going to be shit. And that's kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to making art, that like most ideas are bad. You're going to have to try a lot of really bad ones.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, like it's almost it's kind of worse to be stuck in a situation where you like are so afraid of those bad ideas and of putting out bad ideas and of being thought of as something as a bit of a mess, that like you never make the big bold leaps that push things forward. I can think of video game series that have died on the vine because they weren't willing to innovate in a way that Sonic definitely has been. And although Sonic is a bit of a mess at times, because sometimes Sonic's a werewolf and sometimes he's got stretchy arms. I think that's still the werewolf. And sometimes
still the werewolf. Yeah.
Is that also the game where he kisses like a fully human woman? Who's like,
no, that's
a different game. Okay. Sometimes his girlfriend's a fully human regular woman, which is a choice.
Fun fact: that was actually the original Sonic Origin was supposed to have a human girlfriend named Madonna.
So like, which is one of those things that like, I don't know if it's a good idea or not, because I haven't actually seen them in execution, so I will not make a judgment, but it is definitely an idea that I wasn't expecting. And I think that like sometimes they're going to work and sometimes they won't, but there is definitely value in just fucking going for it and like putting your whole heart and hog into doing it and like seeing what works and what doesn't. Because sometimes you're going to come up with things that people latch onto. That same sense of experimentation is also why they've been able to introduce new characters that people love and like new instances and put Sonic into new pieces of media. And it's a virtue as well.
It's probably why also like Mario has stayed the same for like years.
Yeah,
because Nintendo was just so afraid to just let the little Italian man do something that wasn't jump into a pipe.
Yeah, I mean, like it's this weird divide, because you've had kind of for Sonic's for Mario's entire existence, there's been this sort of weird divide, because there's like the mainline Mario games.
The mainline, which are just the same.
Yeah, which is just like a refinement of the same idea over and over again over time. Yeah. And they will introduce new mechanics and things, but they really don't go weird with it. They don't. Mm-hmm. They're super conservative with what they do there. And there's the other, like the party games, right? Where he like sometimes Mario is like
like the side games, like
the side games,
even like some like little side games like the Mario and Luigi series series or the Paper Mario series, which is just batshit insane to the wall.
And so they by creating that divide, they have the super conservative area where they're going to, the mainline Sonics is like, we were not going to mess with these. And then they have this like sort of, they've developed, they were kind of forced to create a playground where they could let Mario do other things other than just jump into a pipe, so that they could, I don't know, just so they could make more ideas with him and use him in new places and stuff. And some of those are hugely successful and some of them are fucking weird.
And it's funny how the Mario fan base leads into those side projects a lot more than they do with the mainline games.
I see so much more. Like it's interesting when you allow yourself the freedom to be a bit messy and a bit weird. Like people latch onto it in a way. Like I see so much more enthusiasm for Wario and specifically Waluigi. Waluigi has a fucking fan base. I love
those boys.
And the guy,
I love those boys. And then we like this year, like not this year, I think last year. Last month we got Wapeach.
Oh, okay.
It was a scrap design for like a Mario Tennis game where they were introduced like an evil Peach, but the head guy of Mario basically went like, no.
Screw that. But like, because like I have seen the when they were willing to go and be strange and introduce these characters who are like undoubtedly weird, really I remember Wario feeling when I first saw that character design, going like, man, that does not seem like it fits into what they've already presented into this world. And but nonetheless, when they did that, like that shit fucking ruled. Like people like go hard on Wario and specifically Waluigi, and it's because they were able to sort of give something fresh and new. And people who were not able to, because there was a new version of something that they could like. There was people who maybe weren't super into Mario himself, but they see something about Waluigi that they like, and they're able to latch onto it. You give them you give them another target, and so that
100%.
The value of experimenting and being playful with your properties is super important for longevity.
Which is why I think Sonic has lasted the test of time, because he's not afraid to just throw whatever he wants, and the fan base is like, I'll see if it works, but like, if it doesn't, cool. If it does, hooray.
There's got to be few fan bases more like ready for the makers to throw weird shit at them than the Sonic fandom. Like you guys have been through so much, it seems. Like
like the 2010s era, we were just like, I mean, the gameplay is good, but why is the story so not there? Give us something. It just felt, it was also a problem of also like after what happened with Sonic 06, the infamous game that ruined Sonic's reputation. It felt like Sega were trying to like, in a way of like, play it safe.
Sure.
As in like they were taking the feedback of the critics.
Yeah.
Instead of taking the feedback of the fans. Which I understand, like that's like a problem I have. I have problems with critics.
Sure.
Like, I don't think critics are bad necessarily, but sometimes they just don't understand.
Game criticism specifically, but criticism of all art is such a strange. There are people who I would call game critics who I absolutely adore, but what I find interesting about them is not when they're telling me what they think is good or bad, but rather like they're saying, this is bad, this is good. I'm going to tell you, like, this sucks.
How they can improve upon them.
But what I actually, the thing I love from criticism is when they say, I see something in here that maybe even the creator didn't see. And I'm going to tell you, the audience, what I'm seeing. And I'm going to walk you down the path of a way to interpret this art, a way to look at this art that maybe you didn't know. And in that way, you can, I know there are critics who can teach me to love something that I didn't love before.
No, 100%. Yeah. I've actually done to a lot of things. Like, I may not like this one certain thing, but I'll watch someone like make a video about it, and I'm watching like, no, I can see it.
Yeah, I want to see how they love things. I think there's nobody who does this better than Jacob Geller. Do you know him?
Maybe.
Okay. Jacob
sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's a video essayist and speaks mostly about video games on YouTube. He's also at Nebula. And him talking about Resident Evil 4 is like, he loves that game so much, and he's willing to talk about it in a way that I find really entrancing. He also did an incredible video about Shadow of the Colossus and the community's hunt for all of the secrets within Shadow of the Colossus, and like looking for like the last great secret, and then which breaks down to people like hacking the game in order to find unused assets that still exist within the world and stuff. And it's fantastic. And it's a game that I'm one of the few minority of people who didn't really connect with Shadow of the Colossus. That it's a game that
I also didn't connect it when it came out on the PS4. I tried to play it, and I'm like, I mean, it's fine, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I remember being like, I can see what other people see or I feel like I can see what other people can see in this game, and it's just not for me. But watching Jacob Geller talk about Shadow of the Colossus gives me an appreciation for art that I wasn't appreciating before. And through his eyes as a critic, by him explaining things that he sees in it well, I look at that art, and I now have to look at Shadow of the Colossus and other people's love for it and get it more and feel more connected to those people and that art. And that's what criticism at its very best does. It's not about doing a Metacritic score to find out if something's a 7.9 or a 6.2.
Yeah,
None of that
I don't
matters.
like when like I don't like it when people go like, oh well, the popular consensus is that this is bad, so I don't like it. It's like, no, make your own opinion. Fucking play the game, watch the movie, read the comic, and make your own opinion. Fucking don't let other people tell you if it's good or bad.
Yeah. The ability to divorce your view of something with everybody else's opinions of it is so hard. It's a really fraught thing. That like understanding that your relationship with a piece of media is not just your relationship directly with it, but is also your relationship with the world around you and how they perceive that and how your perception of that changes people's perception of you. You know, just by saying that you're a Sonic fan, people make some assumptions about you, despite the fact
100%.
Despite the fact that that doesn't really track. But like that, the knowledge that that people are going to think about, that they have opinions about your media and they have opinions about you because you like it or don't like it, it colors people's ability to enjoy it, and it sucks that is it's basically impossible to properly enjoy something in a vacuum. And
and I also don't like when people are like, I hate criticism. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why do you hate criticism? Do you hate when people tell you that they don't like your story or your art? Because I'd rather have someone tell me they don't like it so then I can improve upon it.
Yeah. Like unabashed praise gets people nowhere. And in fact, interestingly, I think that media that you maybe don't love with all of your heart, stuff that you find flaws in and the ability to look at something and see where it breaks down and what works and what doesn't, is so much more interesting and about growing yourself, like engaging with the media that you don't just love, like the stuff that you find, problematic or that you find annoying or that like gets close to greatness but falls short, and how it but like engaging with that media and those stories and finding those places in which you wish it did something different is so much more useful to growing as a person than just
that's
like.
Why I like nowadays I don't watch the Marvel movies anymore.
Oh, sure.
Because I've fallen off of them, but I don't ever not watch people talk about them.
Okay.
So like, because I want to know what's happening in these movies too. I don't want to go watch them.
Yeah.
Because
fair enough,
they don't interest me, but I want to hear what people are talking about.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, okay, so this is the problems. There are ways that you can make these better and just like improve. Like, I mean, like recently I watched the Echo TV show.
Okay.
I think that was a very solid 7 out of 10 show that could have been an 8. Only because like, I don't want to say something that makes it sound like, oh, you're a racist. I didn't like the whole like ancestry thing, not in the sense that like we had it. I loved when we went back in time to see like her Echo's ancestors. Those were great. I loved that. But then they introduced magic powers, and then I was like taken out of the story. I was like, no,
sure,
why are they here? We're having a story about city crime, and like trying to get this crime lord out of your town, and then suddenly we have magical powers. What the fuck is this going on?
Well,
it's two conflicting like story beats that should not mix, that aren't mixed good. I'll say that they aren't mixed good. They can mix,
sure,
but they aren't mixed good.
And it's when you find pieces, things like that, where you're like, oh man, I was with this up until the moment when X happened, when such and such was introduced.
Yeah, I was always intrigued by everything, and then like, oh, magical powers. I'm like, why are you here?
And those moments are teachable moments when you're trying to like, when you're later, thinking about stories and you're like, okay, I have now seen this not work. What would I do to make it work? Or what would I need to avoid in my own work to like avoid making the same mistake that this person did? You can learn so much more from a flawed piece of media than you can from something that is perfect, right?
100%. Because the only other things I love are flawed pieces of media.
Well, and like when you're looking at like a piece of media that you can't find flaw in, for example, a good example for me is The Princess Bride. I love The Princess Bride. I adore it. I cannot find flaw with that movie. I mean, I kind of, but not
fair
really.
enough.
But like, I can't
find
like
nitpicks.
Yeah, I can find like little things, but nothing that like really I go, man, I really wish that they had done this differently. Because of that, I find that I can't learn anything from this movie. The only thing I could learn from The Princess Bride is how to make The Princess Bride, which I can't do because somebody already did it. So like, there's no like, there's no hooks.
I'm trying to think of like, I'm trying to throw you a flaw for that movie. Now I'm thinking it's like, it's really actually not what? Wait, what can I make? What? There's no flaws. What?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very well crafted.
It's a great movie. Yeah, it's a beautiful movie.
My love for it is so deeply ingrained in who I was, because I saw it so early and I saw it so often and I loved it from the beginning. There are real criticisms you can make of that movie, but like I can't, because I love it so much, I have a hard time thinking of like really engaging with the idea of like, what would I do differently? What can I learn from it? Whereas I just spent 2.5 hours talking about Sucker Punch with Jack earlier today, and like my conversation
you ripped
about
it apart. You ripped that movie apart.
Yeah, yeah. But like the problem with Sucker Punch is that you can't like completely dismiss it out of hand. There's still stuff in there that I find engaging and want to talk about. I
think that's any piece of art ever. Like, you may not like something, but there's always something in there.
I mean, I've seen things that were just boring, that didn't engage. Right? That's the thing.
Well,
that's
boring, but you can always tell that. You can always tell there's something there, like a nugget, like a sprinkle of an idea that could have worked. That just wasn't there.
And because Sucker Punch has those ideas. God, I'm talking about Sucker Punch again. God damn it. Okay. But
no, go on.
No. I can't do it. What I mean is that like. That when things are messy and when they swing for the fences and they make bold choices, and even when those things don't work out, that can actually be more useful for you as a person, as an audience member, to think about, like, to actually engage with that story and engage with that media and engage with those characters, and think about like, these are places where you now have an opinion about it. That's not just, oh my God, I love this, and just like a sort of unabashed thing, but you have like feelings about it. We have definitely ranged all over, and I think we've covered a lot of topics. I'm going to go ahead and let you go and let the audience go. Is there anywhere that you want to direct the audience to find you if they want to find more of your work on the internet? Or
I'm pretty much, if you're a voice director, a director for anything, casting director, looking for a voice actor, go to my Twitter at MikeBear013.
All right.
That's where you'll find me, and other ways to contact me.
Awesome. Great. Well, in that case, we will catch you guys whenever the next episode comes out, because this show has no schedule. So bye-bye. Well, that's it for us this week. Thanks again to Mike for showing up and giving us a great conversation about the fastest rodent this side of, well, anywhere. If you'd like to support the show, why don't you tell a friend about us, or leave us a rating or review on one of them sites. Or if you want to, I don't know, send some scratch our way to keep the lights on, head on over to patreon.com/cursedknowledge. We'll catch you next time when we're going to be covering one of the big ones, Homestuck with Quill.